As we embark on the journey of lifelong athleticism, the questions we face shift with our changing bodies and the passage of years. For older athletes, the challenge is no longer simply about performance gains or breaking personal records. It's about balancing the pursuit of fitness with the overriding importance of heart health and longevity. For those who have built much of their identity around endurance athletics, the landscape can feel especially confusing and sometimes daunting. When every article trumpets the life-extending benefits of exercise, yet doctors warn of the risks of overdoing it, how can you, as an older athlete, chart a path that keeps you doing what you love for years to come? Let us begin by examining why it has become so challenging for seasoned athletes, those with decades of mileage on their legs and years of sweat equity invested, to recognize and regulate the right training intensity. As the body ages, it undergoes subtle, gradual changes. Muscles lose some of their youthful pliability. Joints may ache more and recover less rapidly from strain. But perhaps most critically, the cardiovascular system, the very core of your athletic engine, adapts in ways that aren't always felt, but are deeply consequential. The heart, pipes, and conduits that once seemed invincible now warrant an extra layer of respect and care. Against this backdrop, knowing how hard to push becomes the central concern.
The foundation of safe training for older athletes is rooted in understanding heart health through the lens of modern cardiology. Dr. Peter Clarkson, a leading NHS cardiologist from the storied Scottish Highlands, has guided countless lifelong athletes through the intricacies of training as time marches on. Drawing on both medical research and first-hand clinical experience, Dr. Clarkson illuminates the unique risks older athletes face, specifically focusing on coronary artery calcification and arrhythmias, such as atrial fibrillation. To truly appreciate these risks, let's clarify what they mean. Coronary artery calcification, or CAC, is a process where calcium accumulates in the walls of the arteries supplying the heart. Think of it as mineral deposits gradually lining your garden hose, subtly narrowing the diameter and limiting the flow. When these deposits build up, they increase the risk of coronary heart disease, which can, over time, lead to chest pain, angina, heart attacks, or worse. Of particular concern, the risk is magnified in men and is linked more closely to training intensity than sheer duration. For athletes who relish the rush of an intense bike ride or a hard-fought run, this can be a difficult message to digest. Then comes the issue of rhythm disturbances, specifically atrial fibrillation, AF, and atrial flutter. These are forms of irregular heartbeat that upend the normal, efficient pumping action of the heart. Although they are not immediately life-threatening, they can lead to blood clots, stroke, chronic fatigue, and an overall reduction in exercise capacity. A striking revelation from decades of research is that for each decade spent habitually training hard, clocking high-intensity rides, races, or runs, the risk of developing AF goes up by 16%. While this doesn't mean you should cease to exercise, it does strongly suggest the value of a measured approach. Given these risks, the next big question becomes, at what intensity should older athletes train? The answer, it turns out, is both simple and effective, rooted in the wisdom of moderation. Research and clinical practice converge on the so-called 80-20 rule. In its simplest form, this means that about 80% of your training should be at a moderate intensity, a pace at which you can hold a conversation, though it's challenging enough that you'll feel pleasantly tired by the end. The remaining 20% can, and should, be spent pushing yourself harder, whether that's intervals on the bike, sprints on the track, or those tough gym sessions that leave your heart pounding and sweat flowing. This approach provides a double dividend. By privileging moderate intensity, you build aerobic capacity and support your heart without excessive wear and tear. At the same time, the smaller proportion of high-intensity work drives adaptations that boost VO2 max and help you maintain speed, power, and resilience well into later life. This is not just theoretical. It's borne out in studies and underscored by medical professionals, including Dr. Clarkson. Why is moderate exercise so effective for older athletes?
The answer lies in how the cardiovascular system responds to varying levels of stress. Moderate exertion helps keep blood vessels pliable, maintains healthy blood pressure, and supports the growth of new capillaries in muscle tissue. It stimulates the heart enough to strengthen it, but not so much that it causes remodeling or undue stress. In contrast, pushing the envelope too often or too hard can prompt scarring in the heart muscle, stiffening of the arteries, and the very calcification we wish to avoid. It's a classic tale. Too little, and you don't progress. Too much, and you may do harm. Balance is vital. Consider the real-world example shared by Dr. Clarkson, a 58-year-old lifelong cyclist, the kind of man who could recount dozen hill climb stories and whose garage is lined with well-loved bikes. He had long believed, as many do, that more is better. Racking up long, intense rides multiple times per week, he felt fit, strong, and energetic, until one day, a vague chest discomfort crept in partway through a ride. The sensation was not the classic bolt from the blue heart attack pain, but a nagging tightness that stripped the enjoyment from his effort. He did the wise thing. He saw his doctor. Further investigation revealed a significant buildup of calcium in his coronary arteries. In his case, the issue was not a sedentary, unhealthy life. It was years of consistently training at a heart-pounding intensity with little recovery or moderation. This sobering episode inspired him to rebalance his efforts, introducing more low to moderate intensity rides and reserving the hardest sessions for just a few times each month. The result? Ongoing enjoyment of his sport, an improvement in overall well-being, and hopefully, many more years of cycling to come. The lesson here is universal. Exercise can either be your lifelong ally or a hidden adversary, depending critically on the approach and mindset you bring to it. Let's briefly outline the lessons Dr. Clarkson recommends for older athletes, striving for both performance and longevity. First, recognize and respect warning signs. Chest pain, unusual fatigue, palpitations, dizziness, or shortness of breath, beyond what's typical for you, should never be ignored. While it's tempting to attribute unusual symptoms to getting older or having a bad day, any pattern of persistent or worsening discomfort is cause for investigation, not bravado. Second, make monitoring a habit. This means more than occasionally tracking your heart rate during sessions. Many older athletes now use wearable technology, a smartwatch or heart rate monitor, to spot abnormal rhythms or unexpectedly high exertion. But the most important monitor of all is your own body. If you're feeling off, struggling more than usual to recover, or finding that workouts leave you drained for days, it may be time to dial things back and consult a specialist. Third, build a relationship with your doctor. If you're over 50 and contemplating a significant new exercise program, or ramping up intensity after a period of inactivity, a medical checkup is not only prudent, but often necessary. Screening for risk factors such as high blood pressure, elevated cholesterol, diabetes, or a family history of heart disease can help tailor your training plan. For those with a long history of intense activity, modern imaging tests, like a coronary artery calcium scan, can offer a snapshot of your heart's current state, arming you with knowledge to adjust your routine as needed. So, what does a real-world, heart-smart training plan look like for the older athlete? Begin with the 80-20 rule. Devote the lion's share, 80%, of your training to sessions where you work at a low to moderate intensity. Picture easy-paced bike rides, brisk but conversational walks or jogs, or steady-state rows where your breathing picks up but never becomes gasping. This forms your base, delivering cardiovascular benefits, improved muscular endurance, and, especially if coupled with regular strength and mobility work, support for healthy aging. Add to this the judicious use of high-intensity sessions, the remaining 20%. These are shorter, sharper workouts designed to push your engine, but only briefly, and not so frequently that recovery suffers. That interval set or hard hill climb, while rewarding, is best planned rather than spontaneous, with adequate rest and recovery afterwards.
This way, the body adapts positively, without accumulating the microscopic scars and structural changes that over time may fuel heart problems rather than prevent them. To put these ratios into practice, imagine you typically work out 5 times per week. 4 of those sessions should be at a pace you could maintain steadily for an hour while chatting with a friend. Challenging, but not exhausting. Only 1 workout should focus on truly vigorous efforts, perhaps through intervals, a strength circuit, or a group session that gets your heart rate up. This deliberate moderation is the key to sustainable athleticism as you accumulate birthdays. Yet even the best designed training plan can fall short if you ignore warning lights from your own dashboard. Heart health is not static. Over the course of your athletic life, you may find yourself more susceptible to the effects of stress, fatigue, or illness. Paying attention to patterns. Are you consistently feeling wiped out, finding recovery slower, or noticing new aches? Can be a silent but important alarm. Matching your ambition to your body's signals is not a sign of weakness or aging out. It's simply the hallmark of wisdom and sustainability. There's also the psychological hurdle for veteran athletes to consider. Many have learned to equate harder with better, and may even feel a quiet shame in dialing back, as if it's a sign of losing their edge. But the data is clear. A more measured, moderate approach preserves not only heart health, but the ability to continue enjoying your sport into your 60s, 70s, and beyond. Retired Olympians and heart surgeons alike have confirmed this in both anecdote and evidence. Let's dig deeper into how specific forms of exercise affect the aging heart, and what adjustments may prove especially beneficial. For example, endurance activities like cycling and running are the most closely linked in research to increased risk of atrial fibrillation when performed at high intensities for many years. Rowing, swimming, and gym-based circuits, while beneficial for cross-training, can also increase strain when pushed too hard. However, no form of activity is bad in itself. Rather, it's the cumulative load and lack of moderation that tip the scales from benefit to risk. Weight-based gym workouts deserve special mention. For older athletes, including some resistance training helps preserve muscle mass, improves bone density, and supports overall function. The same rules of moderation apply here. While lifting weights is fantastic for health, constantly maxing out or employing advanced techniques to push through fatigue can contribute to blood pressure spikes and cumulative cardiovascular strain. Alternating days of heavy lifts with lighter, technique-focused sessions or active recovery is the wise path forward. On the other end of the spectrum, flexibility and mobility work often get overlooked in discussions about heart health. Yet practices such as yoga, stretching, and mindful movement not only maintain a healthy range of motion, but also reduce chronic stress and blood pressure, indirectly benefiting cardiovascular risk profiles as well. These easy days are crucial and should be prioritized rather than neglected. Let's also consider nutrition, which is intimately related to recovery and heart health. Older athletes sometimes believe that the nutritional habits of their youth, carbo loading before rides, indulgences after big sessions, will continue to serve them well. However, the aging heart and changing metabolism can intensify the effects of poor dietary habits. Emphasize a colorful, nutrient-dense diet abundant in fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and healthy fats. Moderate your intake of processed foods, added sugars, and excessive salt. Hydration, too, becomes ever more important to supporting healthy blood volume and facilitating heart function during exercise. Recovery routines must also become more intentional with age. While a younger body may have bounced back from consecutive hard sessions, older athletes benefit enormously from structured rest. This includes prioritizing sleep, spacing vigorous workouts with easy days, and considering adjuncts like massage or gentle stretching. A proper cool-down after intense exercise not only brings heart rate and blood pressure down gradually, but also supports the gentle adaptation of the heart and blood vessels. Listen to your body's call for rest as you would a trusted coach or training partner. It is fundamental to lifelong performance.
In understanding the full scope of heart health for older athletes, it helps to frame exercise as a lifelong relationship, rather than a series of achievements or milestones. Your goal is not merely to stave off decline, but to keep the spark of athletic joy burning brightly across the decades. Viewed through this lens, moderation becomes not a limitation, but a way of safeguarding what you love most about your sport: speed, strength, camaraderie, and the ineffable feeling of freedom that comes from moving efficiently under your own power. For those committed to excellence, it may help to remember that some of the world's most celebrated masters athletes, the 70-year-old marathoner, the octogenarian cyclist, follow training plans built on sustainable principles: more easy miles, fewer hard days, constant self-awareness, and a willingness to adapt. It is no coincidence that they rarely succumb to burnout, injury, or heart issues despite their senior status. To summarize, the practical takeaway is clear. Anchor your training in moderation and variety. Seek regular medical feedback and listen to your body's cues. Embrace the 80-20 principle to safeguard both performance and heart health. Make recovery, nutrition, and flexibility a central part of your routine. And above all, redefine winning, not as the next personal best, but as another year of joyful movement and robust health. As we bring these lessons together, remember, the question is not whether older athletes can continue to train hard or pursue the sports they love. The answer, resoundingly, is yes. The real challenge and growth come from learning to do so wisely, striking the precious balance between too much and too little. Your heart is resilient, powerful, and capable of adaptation even as the years add up. But it also demands respect, requiring you to pause, adjust, and sometimes restrain your ambition when necessary. If this message resonates and you're eager to blend athletic passion with long-lasting health, take action. Schedule that checkup, reevaluate your training intensity, and don't hesitate to seek professional advice if something feels off. Share this knowledge with your training partners and fellow athletes, for the wisdom of balanced training can quite literally save lives. Embrace each session as a chance to invest in your future self. Celebrate the moderate days as much as the hard-fought efforts. And when you cross each finish line, whether literal or metaphorical, be proud not only of your speed, but of the wisdom, longevity, and heart health that guide you ever onward. Thank you for joining this important conversation. Continue to cherish your fitness journey. With insight, balance, and mindful training, the road ahead remains bright, strong, and full of possibility at any age.